Denali National Park and Preserve, established in 1917, refers to a 6 million plus acre plot of land situated within Alaska's interior wilderness. At the center of the park, Mount Denali, North America's highest peak, and one of the coveted 7 summits of the world. The park sees roughly 600,000 visitors per year and is one of the nation's most remote and beloved protected areas. Mount Denali National Park is classified under the IUCN Category 2, defined as a large natural or near natural area set aside to protect large-scale ecological processes. It's June 7th, the summer of 1913. Alaska native Walter Harper could go no further, for he had reached the summit of North America. The never before stood upon summit of Mount McKinley at 20,310 feet of elevation. Grizzled climbing leader Harry Karstens from Chicago, Illinois, joins Harper on the summit. Fellow Native Alaskan Harper Tatum follows suit. The 3 men watch as their final partner, the last man on the rope, and the climb's lead organizer, Hudson Stuck, joins the men at the top. Stuck collapses unconscious from exhaustion. McKinley had been conquered at last. This day marks the historic ascent of North America's highest peak. The ascent would go on to inspire more than 35,000 summit bids to date, with a rough success rate of 60%. McKinley would go on to become one of the world's most coveted summits and attract alpinists from all reaches. This was a landmark accomplishment and a milestone in the development and history of Denali National Park. Long before an ascent of what was known at the time as Mount McKinley was ever conceptualized, however, the iconic peak went by many different names. Denali was one of them. Named by the Cayucan Athabascan people and translated as the Tall One. In the last 500 years, the area presently known as Denali National Park was occupied by the native Alaskan Athabascan people. The Athabascan tribes included primarily the Koyukon, the Tanana, and the Dinaina people. The tribes can be divided up into 11 different language groups. The Athabascans were highly nomadic, hunter-gatherer people. The Athabascans would survive primarily hunting ducks, geese, muskrats, and bears in the spring, and establishing temporary fishing camps along streams and rivers in the summer. The tribe collectively showed a great appreciation for all living things. In 1917, the 28th U.S. President, Woodrow Wilson, signed into legislation a bill conceptualized nearly 11 years prior. The bill intended to establish Mount McKinley as an official United States national park and received subsequent protections. The reason for this designation goes without saying. Just 4 years prior, Harry Karstens and his team made the first ever ascent of McKinley. This created great allure and interest in the area. The future economy in the boundless wilderness, recreation, and alpinism promised a great future economy. This was clearly imminent, and this was taken advantage of. 59 years later, in 1976, the park receives additional protection. President Jimmy Carter designates the area as an international biosphere reserve in order to promote conservation within the borders of the park and management of the region's natural resources. More recently, August 27th, 2014, the Obama administration announces the official renaming of Mount McKinley to Mount Denali. McKinley, the name coined by a gold prospector named William Dickey in 1896, named the peak for presidential candidate William McKinley in order to promote his candidate preference. McKinley had no real connection with the area or the mountain, even during his eventual presidency. The name change was made primarily as an homage to the common Athabascan name for the peak, Denali. Climbers who attempt Mount Denali often do so via the west buttress route. Unsurprisingly, throughout the climbing season, human fecal waste accumulates greatly on the glacier, causing much harm to the glacier health when disposed of within its crevices. The fecal material has made its way down from the glacier to the Kalitna River, contaminating the waters. The contained runoff from the glacier melt has additionally been exacerbated by climate issues such as global warming, increasing the volume of runoff per year, as well as the lack of awareness and education the climbers entering the park have about waste management. Climbers have generated nearly 2 metric tons of waste on the peak between 1951 and 2012. These effects are only becoming more apparent with time. Human-produced waste contaminating the river fed by glacier runoff is becoming a huge problem. The lure of the coveted summit of North America's highest peak, and more specifically, the lack of alternative methods of waste disposal on the peak in knowledge recently, is part of the problem. This summit is historic and has challenged the world's best alpinists for hundreds of years, adding to the draw to climate. There's simply no reason why traffic to Denali would slow anytime soon. Underlying this major threat to the park is simply the great consumption and experience by tourism and by people of developed nations seeking to conquer one of the world's 7 highest summits, Mount Denali. Additionally, economic development alongside a mass slew of factors has exacerbated climate change globally, and its subsequent effects are seen within the park. Among these threats include glaciers and avalanches. Additionally, exotic and invasive species introduction has been a historic threat to the park, particularly plant life. An exotic species brought in through a construction site known as the narrow-leaf hawksbeard is a great example. The narrow-leaf hawksbeard spread rapidly throughout the park, and it resulted in issues such as the crowding out of native plants, such as the Alaskan dandelion. Hunting pressures and poaching have additionally been historic and colored history within the boundaries of the park. In order to establish management plans and the safe removal of human waste on Mount Denali National Park, the National Park Service has limited the number of climbers per season to no more than 1,500. Starting in the 2007 climbing season, the National Park Service also instituted the mandatory use of CMCs, which stands for Clean Mountain Cans, as an alternative method of waste disposal on the peak, above the 14,200-foot camps, at which removal and management is extremely difficult. The Kalitna Glacier remains fairly clean due to these precautions, but continuous work and effort to prevent the contamination and degradation of the glacier is necessary going forward. The park has instituted many management principles going forward. A great example of this would be Management Principle 2, pre-planned responses. Having a plan of attack before climbers arrive each season is a great way to get ahead of these issues. In this case, regulations such as the mandatory use of CMCs and limitations of the number of parties each season are great precautions and a great preventative measure. Management principle number 7, threatening processes will be diminished when protected areas are managed as part of a community effort. The climbers must work alongside the National Park Service in order to maintain and protect Denali and its glacier runoff. A collaborative effort is vital here, as well as cooperation between tourists, climbers, and the Park Service. Management Principle 3, long-term activity management. Since climbers will not, in the foreseeable future, stop attempting to climb Mount Denali, it is safe to say that additionally, adapting and a consistent effort each year to maintain the health of the park will be vital. It takes the collaboration of us tourists, climbers, and the Park Service in order to protect the beloved Denali National Park.